Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio in Newark. We're pleased to once again welcome the Senate President in the great state of New Jersey, Senator Steve Sweeney. Good to see you, Senator.
It's good to see you, Steve.
Let's jump right into this. Path to Progress is a report that has been researched, submitted, and now says, what are the keys to fiscal health in New Jersey?
Well, look, there's several.
But you started this whole thing.
Well, yeah, I just asked a bunch of experts, basically the best New Jersey has, not partisan in any way at all, just experts. How do we fix what's wrong? And they came up with, 200 recommendations. We whittled it down to, I think it's 36 or 27. I forget the number now. It's been a little while. But it's hitting at the things that we all know need to be done, but they're the hard things.
Top of the list.
Pension reform, healthcare reform, school consolidation, things that we've talked about for years that is now to a point, these are the big things that have to get done in order to save billions of dollars for taxpayers. Because New Jersey's biggest problem is cost. And without addressing the problems, we're just going to keep pouring money in it. And looking for new taxes to raise without fixing the structural problems doesn't work.
By the way, if you listen to us on the audio side, Senator Steve Sweeney, Senate President Steve Sweeney is with us on State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. Question is this. New Jersey's fiscal health, one of the issues that you and the governor disagree on is that he believes strongly that in order to strengthen the fiscal health of the state, we need to, in fact, increase taxes on those who earn the most money. After $1 million, every dollar is taxed more. He says if we don't do that, we're not going to have money for a lot of the programs that people want.
He's wrong because those are the people that can leave, and after the federal salt, the
state and local tax deduction with President Trump, the federal law.
Yes.
Cap at 10 grand, that's it.
Yeah.
State income tax, property taxes, more than that, you're on your own.
Exactly.
Can't write it off. Go ahead.
So now you have a population that's just got hit with another tax because people didn't mind paying them as much because they wrote them off. Now they can't. And my point is, if you want to talk about revenue raisers, fix the structural problems first, then you'll know what you need. And then if you have to talk about taxes, then talk about them. But without fixing what's wrong in New Jersey, and this is where I am really frustrated with the governor that wrote a report when Dick Cody was the governor.
Let's make it clear. Senator Dick Cody, then acting governor, Dick Cody, he had a commission that looked at the pension situation. And Governor Murphy, at the time, private citizen, did what?
He chaired it and wrote the report that said we needed dramatic change, that this wasn't sustainable. That was back in 04.
You're talking about the pension and health care situation with public employees.
Steve, back then, the deficit was $11 billion. Today, the pension deficit's over $100 billion, about 150, and 115. And our healthcare, retiree healthcare deficit is over $100 billion. So now we're about $220 billion, not million, in the hole. So you can't raise taxes enough to fill that hole.
When does the bill come due?
The bill's coming due now. And if we don't fix the pension soon, by 2023, you're going to have a $4 billion deficit in New Jersey.
In the budget?
Yeah, without a reset, without a recession. So if I give you the millionaire's tax, right? If I give you the millionaire's tax.
What does it bring in?
It's inflated the number they used, but I'll give it to them, $536 million.
And increased revenue to the state. Go ahead.
If no one leaves. So, okay, I'll give it to them, 536. What about the other $2.5 billion? Steve, we can't raise taxes to get us out of this. We need to make structural reforms. Listen, I want to make sure teachers have good pensions. Same with all public employees. But other states, 12 other states in this country, have changed their pension structure.
Well, we have to, respectfully, Senate President Steve Sweeney with us on State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. A few years ago, didn't you, together with Republican Governor Chris Christie, work on this, and there was pension reform?
It wasn't enough, though, Steve. That's the problem. We did what we could get done, because these are big things. Like I said, these are things you talk about forever, and it's very rare you do. If we don't do this, Oregon just did it. Portland, Oregon the state of Oregon just changed their pension system. Democrat governor, Democrat legislature, both houses.
What do you mean change? Be specific. Well, like what? Be specific as to what needs to be done.
In 2003, they went to a hybrid system, which was so much like the first 40,000, this is what we're proposing, is a pension. Anything above that is basically annuity. Like, we're going to take a percentage of your income, put it in annuity, invest it. That's what Oregon has.
Isn't that risky with the stock market being so volatile?
No, because when you do, listen, when you're doing, I won't call it a 401k. I'm calling it an annuity.
Some do, but go ahead.
But I won't for one reason, because there's no match. So if you're doing, and that's what the other states do, but you don't put it in high risk. I deal with annuities all the time.
In your work and
as an iron worker.
Yes, and who deals with that union very directly.
And we all have annuities to supplement the pensions. But this way, you start to change, Steve. You start to move the process. If we do it today, 30 years from now, it'll be fixed. But if we don't do it, in Oregon, when they did it, their pension funding dropped from 90% to 80%. And the governor and the legislature made changes to it again, legislatively. We're in like the high 30s. We're almost bankrupt, and people don't realize it.
You use that word sometimes, and is that the right word, or
Yes.
is that hyperbole, an exaggeration?
It's not an exaggeration. If we continue the course we're going to be bankrupt. And here's the bigger problem. We can't fund anything, Steve. Everything has to go to pension and health care now. Everything. When you look at this budget, we're squeezing pennies here and there to do additional things. If the pension system had not been played with, starting with the Whitman administration, the pension payment would have been $800 million.
When you say played with, either not put money into or taking money out. Go ahead.
Bonding, and then government's not funding.
Right.
But look, there was a little secret to that one.
I shouldn't say taking money out. It wasn't taken out, but
It was bonded. They bonded the pension. But what else they did, Steve, was there was a wink and a nod when the pension payments weren't being made. I was there. I watched it. And I was like, what are you guys going to do with your pension?
What they think was going to happen when the bill came due?
Well, the problem is they weren't going to be there. The people that made these decisions, the people that are here today
Yes.
are not the ones that made the decisions. So I don't blame
But you
them.
have to, you and the governor and the other legislators down, other state leaders, it's your job to, quote, deal with it.
That's where we are.
So let me ask you, say it doesn't happen. What does it mean for the average citizen in New Jersey, not a policymaker, not an insider, not somebody who follows what's going on in the state capitol every day? What would it mean to their lives?
They're going to have to find ways to raise taxes, whether it's increased sales taxes. Look, if the pension system goes broke and we have to start paying out $6 billion a year, and we're not far from that. There's zones like a green, yellow, and red when you're in trouble with pensions. We're in the 30s, high 30s, and it keeps dropping as we keep putting more money into it. So, Steve, it's one of these things that it's not working. No matter how much money we will continue to fund our full obligation, knowing a recession's coming.
Say a recession's coming. Could it mean, Senate President Sweeney, that fewer state dollars to public schools in your community? Could it mean that?
Absolutely.
Could it mean fewer dollars for women's health care services?
All across the board.
Fewer dollars for infrastructure projects?
Well, no, we
You got
dedicated
the transportation trust fund. Yeah,
But
with
how about
transportation
higher
trust fund.
education, where we have the second most expensive
There's been
higher
real
education
cuts there.
system? Oh, yeah. Everyone's going to have to take a cut because there's no funding for anything.
By the way, real quick, switch gears on this. It's a fiscal issue as well. You and the governor appear to be at loggerheads on this. There are several institutions of higher learning, some of whom we collaborate with, and other entities, cancer funding in one of the initiatives. Where is that? I think it's $10 million.
That they froze in Camden.
Okay, make that clear.
100%.
Okay, so there's $230 some odd million frozen from what the legislature wanted to pass in the budget, and the governor said, no, we're not doing that. And how much is that is policy driven? There's a question here, trust me. How much of it is policy driven and just the fact that the two of you often don't get along?
It was politics. Steve, you know why you know it was politics? Because 80% of what he froze is what he put in the budget. When he attacked the legislature saying we filled the budget with pork, right? And he said, I'm
Pork
repeating.
meaning projects that are just for your district? Go ahead.
And he said it. Well, then freeze those projects. If you're feeling they're not worthy, freeze them. But you froze 80% of the projects that were meant to help people. Why is all the cancer funding frozen, all of it, in southern New Jersey, but they funded
You think it was
northern?
targeted to southern New Jersey?
Well, listen,
partly because you're there?
No, there's things in Essex County
Yeah,
that
there
were
are.
targeted.
There's a zoo I know of, Turtleback Zoo.
There
Go
was
ahead.
things in Essex, there was things in Central, but they were targeted for anybody that resisted and disagreed. And unfortunately, Steve, look, this gets personal for me. I lost my mother and my brother to cancer. Why would you deny people in southern New Jersey dollars to deal with cancer treatment. It's offensive and it's unfair. You know, I went after Chris Christie when he cut a budget one time and called him a whole bunch of bad names. I don't know what to say when Phil Murphy says, why support these things? Well, then fund them. Because, by the way, they can't answer one question, not one question, how they came up with a list. And what they tell you.
Of what they weren't going to fund.
Yeah. And what they say, the executive order speaks for itself. I said, no. Well, tell me who was in a room and who made the decisions and why this was funded and this wasn't funded. And why would you freeze 80% of your own funding?
Stay on that, Senator. I want to make something clear. Senate President Steve Sweeney with us here, Steve Adubato here at the studios of NJTV for State of Affairs. You may be asking yourself, what does the governor have to say about this? I want to be really clear about this. We have and will continue to work with the governor's office to try to get him in this studio for a State of Affairs interview so that he can offer his perspective on this. I want to make it clear, we've tried. It's been a scheduling issue to date. We will get that done. That being said.
I would love to see him.
Okay, can we do this?
Sure.
Quick. You've called for a ban on vaping.
Yes.
30 seconds. Why?
Because it's an epidemic right now, and you know, these vaping stores are actually using products that are illegal products out of, you know, they talk about the corner, Steve. They're getting them out of China. They're getting into the stream, and people are getting sick. It's worse than cigarettes, because cigarettes is a chronic effect. It takes a long time. This is an acute effect where you vape one night and the next day you're in the hospital.
You believe that this ban is possible?
Yes.
There's support for it?
Yes.
Governor Murphy communicated that he would be supportive?
He didn't communicate he wouldn't, and he called for everyone to stop banning immediately. You saw
Not to stop banning, to ban him.
To stop vaping immediately. Okay. And you know, Governor Cuomo's just came out with an announcement.
And President Trump has said some things on this.
God, it scares me.
But he said something similar.
But he's right. He's right on this. I can't believe I'm agreeing with him, but he's right on this. Yes.
Do this one. Marijuana.
Yeah.
How far away are we from the legalization of cannabis/marijuana in the state of New Jersey? The governor wants it.
I want it, so does the speaker.
Speaker Craig Coughlin wants it. So what stands in the way?
Some of my members. And we're going to push in lame duck to get it done. If not, we'll put
lame duck meaning after the November election, up until January, the new legislature takes over.
January, whatever, mid-January. And if not, we'll prepare a ballot initiative that we know will be successful.
Okay, real quick, I've talked about this before. We have an initiative called Right from the Start NJ, focusing on childcare for infants and toddlers, improving that situation. Just been $54 million of state money going to that. What more do we need to do?
Well, you know, Steve, we need to fund more, to be perfectly honest with you. And like Teresa Ruiz, Senator Ruiz, and myself, yes. She's the champion of pre-K. You know, right?
She sure has. She has a small child as well. I'm very focused on this.
We need to get to birth. We need to get children at birth. My daughter was a preemie. She has Down syndrome. She was in early intervention. The earlier you get someone, the more they learn. Your brain, 85% of your brain develops from birth to 5 years old. So we should be looking at putting as much money in as we can early, because it's that old Fram commercial, pay me now, pay me later.
Got to pay either way.
You make that investment up front.
Senate President Steve Sweeney, thank you for joining us, and I'm glad that you're here in the next few seconds as we acknowledge that State Senator Tony Bucco, who served in the legislature for many years, 81 years of age, joined us many times on State of Affairs. A gentleman, a class act, someone who always would disagree without being disagreeable, and we lost him. The state has lost him, an important public servant. And I just want to acknowledge that on behalf of everyone here at State of Affairs, NJTV, the public television family, that we wish the Bucco family all the best. Rest in peace, Tony Bucco.
The way you described him is exactly how he was. He's a gentleman, a class act. You couldn't find a bad word to say about him. Steve, the thing that's it's really sad is I really consider him a very good friend, and I'm heartbroken that he passed. You know, he had some tough times recently, but I thought he was getting beyond them. And I, you know, he was a tough guy too. He stood his ground, but he stood his ground. But one thing you knew, when Tony Bucco gave you his word, it was gold.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Jim.
This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. We'll be right back.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., RWJ Barnabas Health, NJIT, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, PSC&G, Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council of Carpenters, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by Insider NJ and by NJ Advance Media.